afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you're able to get this In Conversation With episode. My name's Dave Sleet. I'm co-founder of APA, and today I'm joined for this episode by Beth Thomas. Now, Beth is one of APA's psychologically alert level members. And this is the first conversation in season 3 with a PAL member. So I'm really looking forward to be able to share with you, one, Beth's experience and what Beth does, but also what it means for Beth to be a PAL member of APA. Because I think that's got its own little bit of special nugget in there. So without further ado, as they used to say, let's bring Beth into the room. There you are. Hi, Beth. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing?
It's an absolute pleasure. I am really looking forward to this conversation. And I think the first part really, I can say absolutely loads about how special it is for having a PAL member that has your experience, but it's not gonna make any difference to anybody to hear it from me. So why don't I pass the mic over to you, and you can let people know a little bit more about you, and then we'll get kicked into the conversation.
Amazing. Okay. Wow. What an open-ended thing to start with. So I should probably start by saying I am a certified ADHD life coach, and I also have ADHD combined type presentation myself, which, if anyone is familiar with that, makes a lot of sense for why this open-ended sort of intro could end up going off in some interesting tangents. So yeah, there's so many things, and then they all just go from my head. I don't know where to start sometimes, because I want to say it all. There's so many things to say.
and that's why I wanted to give you that kind of opener, because you do it so perfectly. It's beautifully articulated, that open-ended engagement for you is exactly that. It is open. It can go absolutely anywhere, and that's the beauty of the work that you do. So you are a coach.
I am.
You are I think you called it dual presentation, didn't you? And
clinical term, as it were.
We all do it, don't we? It's like, oh, that's the clinical bit. Let's get that out the way and move through. But for you, what does that actually mean in practice?
Oh, what a great question. For me, it means breaking conventions. It means reimagining and redefining perspectives and expectations of what that actually means. For me, it means that my brain thinks differently, and I experience lots and lots of things that come along with having a differently thinking brain that was not diagnosed as a youngster, which, walk with me on a daily basis. Some of them are challenging, some of them are really exciting, but all in all, each and every part, no matter how challenging or exciting, makes me who I am. Mm-hmm. And I spent a great many years making myself smaller and more agreeable, or, well, at least attempting to try to fit in. And what I learned in the last few years, undoing and unmasking all of that, was actually, in doing so, I became less of who I really am. So being able to say now that I know my brain in this way means that I can actually come into myself in the most authentic way possible, which then means that I can show up for my clients, my sort of collaboration projects, my pretty much anything, as the most authentic version of myself. And that for me is one of the most important things for me anyway.
And that level of self-awareness is not easy to achieve, is it?
Oh, absolutely
I
not.
mean, let's be honest. The world of self-awareness, for which most people that follow APA will hear us talk about near enough every day of our living lives, is, but when we have neurodiversity in any observable level,
Mm-hmm.
that self-awareness kind of almost becomes like a glorious hunt for ourselves, isn't it? It's like, because we're in we spend so much time in survival mode.
Absolutely.
And for you, you've gone through a huge amount of learning in order to discover that self-awareness. What would you say is your favorite lessons that have come out from that?
Oh, these are some fantastic questions. My brain in the background as I'm thinking just goes, whoop, whoop, whoop. Well, how many things can we think of at once? Some of the most important lessons. Do you know what? I'll start with one that I'd almost wish had been taught to me as I was embarking on that journey, but probably wouldn't have meant anything until I'd really learned it for myself, as going through that process. But it's hard. It's really scary and it's really challenging. Sometimes it feels that you're not making any progress at all. I think in this sort of era that we're coming into, where people are, for great reasons, seeking self-awareness and self-acceptance and self-expression, a lot of people think it's sort of this, sunshine, rainbows and daisies type of process that is linear, and you do ABC, off you go, done, and that's it. You've learned them and that's it. But for me, I had to relearn multiple lessons multiple times, and each and every time I'd think, oh, I failed again, gosh, I knew this, I should have remembered this, and that should comes in. And then I think, okay, actually, if I'm having to relearn it, I need to learn again something maybe different from this, or see this from a different perspective. So it's okay to learn and relearn lessons that are important as you're going through this journey. And it is not a linear journey at all, because something might come up for you that makes you feel in the moment that you're right back to square one, that whole kind of one step forward, two steps back kind of feeling. And actually that's still part of the process. And that in itself, when you can recognize that and practice self-compassion to forgive yourself for those moments, become really exciting, because each and every time you still get to reflect and look back and think, wow, look how far I've come, even if I still feel like I have far to go, as if we've got some kind of final destination to be at. But you can be proud of whatever it is you have achieved in the process. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think, and I've for a long time in the work that I do, I've worked with the idea that if we think about life as a dance, and we dance our way through life, sometimes we're going to take some steps backwards.
Yeah.
But it's part of the dance. And the thing with dance is we're our own choreographer. There is nobody watching us perform that knows those dance steps like we do. So if we take a step backwards, nobody knows that isn't part of the dance.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just see that we're still flowing through that dance. And when we can kind of attach that thought process around those experiences where we have to take a sidestep, take a step back, we're not actually leaving the dance floor. We're still there. We're still going through those motions, and we're still moving in the way that we need to for that moment.
Fantastic. I really resonate with that, because I actually have a background in dance. So as you're saying that, I'm just now thinking and reflecting on all of those moments where, as you say, the audience wouldn't have known, you yourself might know, and perhaps, you know, your teacher or the rest of your crew might know. But yeah, that's a really beautiful analogy, and a really interesting one as well, because now I'm just thinking about one of my ballet teachers who would always say, it doesn't matter what's happening down here, because the audience won't know. What happens up here tells the story. And I think that can be quite powerful when we also start thinking about masking and the implications that can have for people. Because, you know, if everything up here says to the world, we're totally fine, or we've got this, and we're not really thinking about the whole, you know,
and that's when I think we can put on that mask, we can put that presentation on, and it's when we start forgetting that that's the mask, that's the presentation, we don't deal with what's really happening, that's when we trip up.
Yeah.
And absolutely. It's connecting. The mask is there for a reason. It is part of our protection mechanism. It's there for all sorts of different reasons, but it's the tool that we use. And if we use it correctly and we use it safely, there isn't a problem. It's when the mask kind of becomes detached, if you like, from what's really going on, that we experience a lot more difficulties, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. I think masking, if you see it in that perspective as a tool, it can in some instances be really helpful. I'm not sure whether or not I'll get some conflicting responses from my fellow peers in the neurodivergent communities on that one, but I do see that there is a sense of purpose, because to a certain extent, it's a tool that can keep us safe. As you say, it's when you aren't able to differentiate, or it becomes something that we're overly reliant on because we don't know what our real authentic self looks or feels like, or we're too scared to share that with the world or even ourselves. That's when it can become a really scary concept to take it off, because we're like, well, I don't know what that looks like.
And being able to use the tool really comes into its own when you've been able to do that self-discovery.
For sure.
And like you say, it becomes something that we can use to protect ourselves from the environment, and it's part of human nature. You know, the more we try and take away those elements of protection or of survival, the harder it gets to be able to do that self-discovery. But once you've done it, you then have a most beautiful choice. I can mask, or I can't. I can put it down, or I can take it back. And it's something that I think the more self-aware we become, the better we become at knowing when and when not to rely on masking.
Indeed.
But you picked up, and this conversation has already gone there, so I'm going to kind of delve into it a little bit more. But we use analogies in a way that kind of a lot of people would go are almost extreme when there's a neurodiversity. Do you think that, you know, in the work with clients, the use of analogy has become really useful to you? Or is it something that you keep to kind of those direct conversations away from clients?
Oh, I think that's a really fantastic question. For me, anyway, it really depends on the level of relationship I have with the client and really what language and what communication styles and forms work best for them. If they're not someone that can resonate with an analogy, they prefer sort of, more straightforward language, I'm not going to be looking to use that as a way to connect with them, or a way to investigate, sort of scenario that I might use an analogy to sort of explain. But for instance, if I have a client who is quite a visual learner, as an example, there are many, many different types. That person might find that having something they can imagine that, sort of is really, really instigated by the use of an analogy is really helpful for them. It can also be quite a helpful tool if this particular client might be really struggling to, let's say, identify with that discussion themselves. Maybe that feels uncomfortable, maybe they're not ready for that. And sometimes one of the helpful things with an analogy is that you're creating a story or sort of example that feels that perhaps similar but not the same. And so they can resonate with it and they think, oh, that makes sense, I get that. But it's not direct and to the extent where they're feeling, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really depends on what works best for the client and how, that interaction is going.
And being able to do that, to be able to make that decision on the fly in that interaction, really does kind of show the self-awareness of the professional.
Absolutely.
It all comes back to that self-awareness, to be able to kind of go, okay, I can give a resonation point. Resonation, is that even a word? Did I just invent a word? I think I just invented a word.
Sounds like
Resonation. We'll go. But you can create that kind of point of contact without going direct, that allows that kind of connection to be built into the direct for the client. But if you as the professional don't have the self-awareness, it would never happen. It couldn't work.
Absolutely. I mean, without that level of self-awareness, I might even go so far as to say that the coaching work you're doing is self-serving, right? Because it's not about me in those sessions, it's about the client. And so it's not up to me to decide how I'm going to communicate with them, what I think they need, or what I'm going to be telling them what they should and shouldn't do. That's not the job of a coach.
Yeah.
And so having that awareness is absolutely integral to maintaining that level of professionalism that you need to hold that space in such a way that keeps you aligned with the ethical guidelines of true coaching and stops that kind of permeability, as it were, of your things coming into their space. I think often about, let's say, my sort of natural rescuer or fixing parts that will come in and want to fix the client in that idea of seeing something as broken or in need of support. And if I didn't have that self-awareness, then those parts would be just running rampant everywhere, and they'd be trying to fix something that's not broken, or they'd be trying to soothe something that might need growth. I don't know. So yeah. That self-awareness piece is absolutely integral to that.
And that kind of brings me to being psychologically alert, and that kind of focus on how a coach operates within an ethical framework. Because coaching certainly in the UK is roughly 20-25 years old as a sector. And it's very much been led by a sales starting point. It was a drive for revenue. It was a drive for lifestyle. It was a drive for business growth, etc. And it's grown into something very, very different. And without kind of wanting to upset too many people, didn't really look after its reputation for being ethical.
it's not done particularly well. For sure.
So for APA to bring psychologically alert level component to the coaching arena is very, very different. So how have you found that kind of connection with APA and the coaching work that you do?
It's meant the world to me, to be honest. I mean, as you mentioned, the coaching arena in this country in particular is still in its arguably formative stages. And one thing that is still a controversial conversation surrounds that idea of regulation. Some people are very pro-regulation, some people are very, oh, actually, we like it how it is. And for me, it was so important to come into this space, not just as my authentic self, but as a coach who held themselves accountable to the highest possible ethical standards. So my qualification is currently one of the most comprehensive and sort of globally recognized, because again, up until about, I don't want to get this wrong, so I apologize to the people who created it if I do, but up until I even want to say maybe this year, there was not a UK-based comprehensive certified coaching qualification. Lots and lots of coaches or qualifications out there that say, well, we can make you a coach in 6 to 8 weeks and we'll give you a level 1 certificate, and exactly that. And you start thinking, oh my goodness, really? Wow. Okay. And I felt immediately as I was researching these that, oh gosh, that's just not going to fit, right? That's not me really being able to learn everything that I'm going to need to learn to really hold the clients that I want to work with. So I decided to go for a qualification that was ICF endorsed, which is the International Coaching Federation. And so they have a set of ethical guidelines, which of course I hold myself accountable to and are really important within my work that I do. And then once I'd become qualified, I thought, right, okay, what more? How can I continuously ensure that I am, in the spaces that support and nurture my growth, my professionalism in this space, offer security, clarity, stability to clients that I'm working with. And, again, there weren't many options. And that's sad, because the lack of regulation in the coaching industry means that a lot of places will not have a space for them. And A&A were the only credible, reliable, awesome sources for which I could explore that. And to have recognition as a psychologically alert level member, for me, was like, okay, so the qualifications that I've gone purposefully to seek are relevant, are important. It was important to seek that level of qualification. And I've been able to find a place that really supports that, to ensure that I'm working ethically. And that's been amazing, because as I said, when you're working in an unregulated industry, it's really, really challenging to work with your clients and build that level of trust, whilst also remaining very aware of the fact that a lot of people in my industry are sort of almost contributing to that issue of, I don't know, unreliability, let's say.
And first off, thank you, because I think any professional who comes into an organization such as APA, where it is voluntary, there isn't that regulation to say you have to have this. You're making a choice based on what is available to you. And Siobhan and I have done a huge amount of work to make sure that psychologically alert level arena is as solid and robust, but also sustainable as possible. And the capacity to support those professionals who are coaches, there are teachers, we have community support work. They're all working with psychological awareness, but they're also working with a very high level of self-awareness. And that combination, the qualification, that's the knowledge, the understanding of how to engage, and that self-awareness is another component. But also the experience to be able to make those decisions in the moment with their client that remain within the ethical framework. That whole collection of elements really does change the experience for the client, doesn't it?
I'd like to think so. I'll have to ask them. I'd like to think so. I really, really would. I think so far, I would guess that the responses and the feedback would agree with that without asking for their insights directly. And yeah, it's so important to me as a coach to be able to offer that and to role model it as well. Again, it's for me a high level of, okay, well, anything that I'm going to do personally and professionally in my life, I see very much as, you know, am I role modeling this to my clients? I couldn't ask my clients to do something that I didn't think or feel was possible for me to do. And that again extends into that level of that self-awareness and that knowledge and that understanding.
When I was preparing for this conversation, there were kind of some key things that I really wanted to kind of get across, and we've covered all of them so far. The one area that we hadn't already kind of covered, you've just opened the door on. and it's phenomenal, right? So role modeling, right? Especially in the coaching arena. Now, we know in the arena of psychotherapy and counseling, the vast majority of professionals who go on to qualify do so on the motivation of their experience with a really good therapeutic professional. Through the journey, that role models their own, I want to be able to do that. Now, coaching is the same and slightly different. So for you, was there a role model for you to go into coaching? And if so, can you share any of that?
Oh, do you know, my avenue into coaching was actually quite different. So I have had a fantastic and immensely transformative experience with a therapeutic professional. And that was one of the cornerstone turning points for me being able to develop my own self-awareness journey, which continues and will always continue, and you know, for every day of my life. And I think that engagement was one of the first ones that role modeled boundaries for me, that held space for me to figure a lot of things out. And that'll be a conversation, I'm sure, for another day. So that was one of my huge role models in doing what I do now. But as we've already been able to distinguish coaching and therapy, although they dance closely together at points, they are still very, very different for lots of different reasons. So my journey into coaching didn't actually start with a coach. It started with a job that I had working with a psychiatrist who had a special interest in holistic approaches. And so I'm going to open up another controversial conversation here on ADHD medication, which absolutely, when titrated well and supported properly and taken correctly, can be a fantastic layer of treatment for people with ADHD. What I observed as I held hundreds of people through their diagnostic journey was that every experience was different. Every single person's titration journey was different. There was no one set standard method. There was no 6 months you'll be on the right medication, 3 different dosages and you'll nail it. It doesn't work like that. And because I could relate so strongly to these people going through that process, and seeing the frustrations, and if anything, almost a sense of that compounding their internalization of I'm a failure, you know. Oh, this medication isn't working for me, it must be my fault, I must be broken, it must be me that it's not working for. But let's just be really open about the fact that, depending on the statistics you'd like to look at, about 1 in 5 people don't respond to ADHD medication. So you've got all of these people putting all of their faith in this medication and a system that is so overburdened at the moment that they're not able usually to get that level of support that they need for this medication to be properly managed. And just as I said, that kind of permanent sense of failure is just still sitting there looking at them in the face because this medication either hasn't worked or they haven't got the support they've needed to make it work, or whatever it is that is relevant for that person's individual journey. And as a part of this holistic approach that the person had an interest in, we were looking at all of the different elements and avenues that make up a really important comprehensive approach to managing ADHD. And this is for ADHD in particular, not all of the neurodivergencies. And we looked at coaching. And with my different experiences and my different backgrounds, and by just genuine love to connect with people, before I was even a coach, I was a PT in a previous life, a personal trainer. All of that started to fit together to create this very unexpected but pretty beautiful jigsaw puzzle piece, as it were, of going, oh, actually, I think I've just found my calling. And so, although I didn't work directly with a coach, after kind of figuring all of this out, was like, that's it. I need to now become a coach, because that is why my lived experience happened. That is why all of the things that I went through growing up has purpose. Because if there are any opportunities in which I can learn the skills, the techniques, and the tools and the guidelines to hold space for people where they can relate to experiences that I might have gone through, which enable me to hold that space, then amazing.
Yeah.
How fulfilling is that? And so that's what led me to seek coaching and discover the world of coaching, and realize that, wow, this is actually far greater than I even imagined to begin with. And it's now a really exciting space to sort of find myself in, because it seems to pretty beautifully encapsulate all of the things that are important to me, that I believe in, that I would like to contribute to. So yeah, that's my journey into coaching.
And those building blocks along the way, those stepping stones that got you to that jigsaw puzzle moment, the fact that you were in the right space for those pieces to fall into place, is in itself a kind of, I couldn't even work out the odds for that to happen. But what we do know is that as human beings, we look for those patterns that resonate for us to be able to explain what our experiences have all been for. It's almost like, the DNA double helix, that gap in the middle.
Yep.
That bit's our purpose. That bit's all of our memory. Everything else, it's like dark matter of DNA.
And coach.
Yeah, and then that sits, and it's absolutely beautiful that you found that passion from your experience, and it makes something Siobhan says quite a lot is, what we do is not a job. What we do is a vocation, because it's what we have to do. And it reminds me of a conversation that a very well-known actor of quite a long career has always said about what it takes to be good at anything. If you want to be good at something, you'll never achieve it. If you have to do that, whatever that thing is, but if you wake up and you have to do that, you will be the best at it. Whether that's being an actor, a performer, you wake up and it's, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Then you will be working your vocation. And it's something that when I started to engage with you through the APA process and get to know a bit more about you, that just oozes from you, and it resonates with those interactions, and it's why this conversation has to be shared, because you are a phenomenal individual who has harnessed their self-awareness in a way that benefits those around them, those they work with. And that's what being a psychologically alert level member of APA is all about. So I want to say a massive thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey, your experience with everybody through the conversation, but more than that, everything that you're doing on a daily basis to support those people around you.
Amazing.
So
I just need to say that one more time for the imposter syndrome, just sitting there like, what?
Yeah, you heard me, pal. You can go take a walk.
Yeah, right.
This one's done.
Fantastic.
I know that you are going to be taking part in the My Story to Your Path series in the very near future. I really look forward to that, and I know that people are going to get a huge benefit from that very, very special story. But for now, if you were to say anything to somebody that was contemplating going down the route to become a coach, what would you say?
Oh, what wouldn't I say? If it feels right in your heart and your head, do it. If it's one of the things that is niggling at you like a rock in your shoe that you cannot think anything differently of, give it time and give it space. Because you might find yourself being a trailblazer, you might find yourself living your life with purpose, you might find yourself enjoying the journey, and you might even find that everything that you've been through up until that point has purpose, and that feels scary and magical and exciting and inspiring, and all of those things are valid. All of those things are important and have space. So try, as hard as it is, try not to exile any of those negative things, because those at times might have kept you safe. But if you're ready to sit with them and you are ready to go on that journey and you are ready to step out, go for it, go fly.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. So for anybody watching, if you have gained from this conversation, you can get CPD recognition for what you've learned. In the comments attached to the video, there will be the link to the CPD questionnaire. Get that filled in, get that back to APA, and get that recognition certificate. But without it, there's no recognition certificate. So let's make sure that when we're giving out those recognitions, it's because you've gained something from the learning, not just because you watched the video. Well, we can all go watch a TR video and go, yeah, I learned loads, but what? So for now, I want to say a massive thank you to Beth. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's watched, and we will see you again in another conversation very, very soon. Take care.